If you've been enjoying R4E, the Reason for Everything podcast, please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all platforms or wherever you get your podcasts. Yeah, really no major agenda. Just want to learn more about you and Pepper. Dude, it's so crazy. I saw and came across you and Pepper on Kate Max's story or her post like whatever 2 3 weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this seems pretty sweet. And so I took a look at your profile, checked out Pepper, and I was like, I got to talk to this guy. So excited to learn more about you and your business. But maybe I'll just give you a chance to introduce yourself to my audience, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, awesome. Well, and again, thank you so much for having me on. I really means the world and super excited to be here. So my name is Matt Schkolnick. Today I'm the co-founder and COO of Pepper, which is the leading social community of home cooks. I grew up in New Jersey. I played competitive soccer growing up. That was kind of my thing, which I actually still play today in the city, which is one of my favorite hobbies and a great way for me to just kind of get my mind off things and be in my own world. Grew up in New Jersey, went to Penn State, had an amazing experience there. I got to study in Spain during my junior year and just a really great group of people, great academic experience there. After I graduated Penn State, went and did my master's at Rutgers before I started my full-time job in M&A at Deloitte. Worked there for 3.5 years. Great experience. Again, I was working with early stage tech startups, and my clients were VCs and private equity firms. And as I was in that job, I just kind of realized that I was so interested in the companies that they were looking at, their founders, their products, their stories, their strategy, and a little bit less so from the financial perspective. And so I had worked at 2 startups in college and always just loved the idea of kind of being a part of something from the ground level and building an idea into a reality. And so that kind of led me to start Pepper, and been living in the city where I absolutely love, in New York City, which I love. And yeah, having fun, trying to balance, working with making sure I, see the city and try new restaurants and all stuff like that.
Love it, man. Let's start with this spicy question for you for the theme of Pepper. So I imagine that a lot of my audience listening is in some world of consulting, as I feel like most people are these days. We'll dive into Pepper and what you're building now, but for someone that spent time in hardcore consulting, what do you think the future of that industry looks like over the next 5-10 years?
That's a fascinating question. I feel like a lot of what I did there probably will be replaced by AI in the next couple years. If I think back to what I was doing of going through data rooms and creating analyses based off of numbers and graphs and information that's in those data rooms, like from my understanding, and I'm no AI expert, but I do feel like AI will be able to do a lot of those tasks. Now, I still think there will always be a role, of course, of consulting firms and of human analysis and judgment. You can't, an AI will never be able to form a relationship with a client. And so I think that the future of consulting will be much more relationship and human based. And some of those more like monotonous, like reading a data room and creating a preliminary analysis, that is what will be kind of automated, and people will have to actually get back to some of those like humanized skills of like how do we interact with people, which maybe hasn't been such a focus over the last couple of years and is right now in consulting only done at a higher level.
What's one piece of advice you would have given to yourself as, a 22-year-old consultant getting into the world?
Be a sponge and just talk to people and be genuinely curious and learning about other people's interests and passions and career paths. I always made it a point to try to talk to the partners and ask them about their careers and learn about their journeys. And I just find people so fascinating. And in the world of consulting and finance and really any industry, everyone has their own unique story of how they ended up. And I think that there's things that you can learn from every single person. Every person has a story, and you may not have the same interests or see your career going the same way, but there's something to be learned from everyone. And I think that the only way you can do that is by putting yourself out there and try and asking questions, right? Like, unless you're actually putting in the effort, going into the office, asking someone to grab coffee, just putting yourself out there is like so important.
Now you were living the state school kid dream. You went to big state school. You got a great job, and then you quit. Why'd you end up quitting your role?
I quit Deloitte to go full time on Pepper because I did not want to live with any regrets. And I was battling with it. I wanted to quit to go full time on Pepper. And I actually went on a trip I was lucky enough to go to Hawaii with my family last summer. And I would just go on these like long walks. And I had kind of in the month or two leading up to it, I just was like waking up and I wasn't really excited about what I was about to do, which was balance between Deloitte and at night working on Pepper. Um, and I just went on these walks and I tried to think about my life in the future. And I love Jeff Bezos has this thing called like the regret minimization framework, where he's like, when you're older on your deathbed and like you're looking back, like, how can I make sure that I have the least amount of regrets? And I knew that I would never regret trying. I would only regret not trying. And so it became really clear to me on that trip to Hawaii along those walks that I would be okay if I looked back and I tried and I went full time and I failed. What I would really regret was if I stayed at my job in a place that I know that wasn't, getting the best out of me and didn't give Pepper 100%. That is what I would regret.
Now, timeline of this. So you graduated your master's in 2020. You get into the real world of consulting in a tricky time for folks that have to travel and be boots on the ground. At what point did Pepper start, brewing in your mind, and then at what point did you officially launch?
So Pepper was brewing in my mind in the summer of 2019 when I
Okay.
was doing my master's program. So I graduated spring of 2019, did my master's program, started full time in January 2020. So 2019, I was in this group me with my college friends. We were all sharing what we were cooking. First time in my life, I'm like, I love to cook. Like, this is my thing. I loved posting in it. I loved seeing what my friends were making, talking about a dish. It became so fun to me. And that's where I kind of identified this problem around how people were determining, what they were going to cook and finding recipes on the internet, and that there was this whole opportunity to socialize that experience by introducing you to dishes made by your friends and family and creating this community around cooking. Sat on the idea for 2019. I was doing my master's CPA, like wasn't really thinking that I was going to start my own business. 2020 hits, COVID, everyone is on social media posting sourdough bread starters, posting what they're cooking. And I saw that these digital communities in a world where people cannot get together in person and in a world where there is a loneliness epidemic, people needed a place to go online and engage digitally with people with similar interests. I was a huge fan of Strava at the time. I was running a bunch during COVID, and I felt like that same community vertical dynamic could exist for cooking. And so that in the beginning mid 2020 when COVID starts, my best friend from growing up, Jake Aronskine, who I had spoken about with this idea in 2019, came to me and said, Matt, remember that idea that we had for the community and tool around cooking? Now is the time to build this. Do you want to, come build it with me? And that was kind of how it started.
That's wicked. And so you guys say, all right, we're gonna get this started. You guys, what did you hop on a Zoom together and start brainstorming? What was it like from idea creation, text message to V001 of Pepper?
I went to his place, which was in like April 2020. And I remember I wore a mask and we were outside, 10 feet away from each other talking. And so Jake and I worked at a startup together when we were freshmen in college. It's a digital media and e-commerce startup. And I think that kind of opened up our eyes to the possibilities. Jake was actually working as a proprietary trader at the time. I was a couple months into Deloitte. And I think this is probably the most popular question I ever get asked is like, what is that initial first step? And like, we took it from a very practical approach of like, okay, if we want to create an app, like what do we need in order to create an app? Well, it starts with a design. like literally what is the app going to look like? And Jake hand drew a bunch of designs for what the interface would look like. And those, I still have, I think they're literally right over here, those original designs, the handwritten designs. And then we're like, okay, we have handwritten designs. Like, let's probably digitize these, right? We should, use Photoshop or whatever. I had a friend from college who knew someone who I knew worked on an app in college. I reached out to him. Eli Silverman ended up becoming our head of product. He created, Photoshop designs of it. We then were connected to someone who made V1s of an app. So it wasn't like a fully coded portion. It was more of just like a prototype, but we took those original handwritten designs that were then digitized and then put them into something that we could play with on the phone. And that is what we used to then kind of shop it around and start showing our friends and family of like, hey, is there something here?
Now, when did the name Pepper come to be? Was that, from initial text to, or when did that come about?
Such a funny question. I love telling the story. It's actually one of my favorites. We played around with so many names. I think we like the two syllables, like, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, like those, like, those like strong names. When we looked at the market, there were so many companies that had very gimmicky names or felt like they were gimmicky. We went around, like, we were thinking of names like Chef It or like Voila or Simmer, or some of these like names that like sound good, but like when you look into them, like they either like don't really mean much or they sound kind of gimmicky. And I remember Jake's brother Daniel, I believe he said like salt and pepper. And Jake, in that classic, like from the Social Network movie is like, drop the salt, just pepper, it's cleaner, and like the Social Network, they're like, drop the just Facebook, it's cleaner.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget what Jake said to me. Obviously, pepper's prominence in the food world, it doesn't need to be explained, but Jake said to me, pepper is a strong enough word that can hold down what this platform can turn into. If we called ourselves Chef It, we're a platform for chefs. If we called ourselves Cook It, we're like, you don't want to box yourselves into something. Like, what is Facebook or what is Snapchat or what is Instagram? They kind of like, you don't really know. It's just a platform. And so Pepper, even from its earliest stages, like our vision was big, and it is this all-encompassing platform that touches home cooks and it touches content creators and it touches brands and really has formed this ecosystem. So I think, I think Jake's older brother Daniel had the initial salt and pepper idea, and then Jake kind of iterated to get it to pepper.
Shout out to Daniel.
Yeah, shout out to Daniel.
Now, that V1 that you guys had, we're testing the proof of concept with friends and family. What did that look like? I know you guys had this big vision of, a social network for all things cooking. What was V1? What was the minimum viable product for you guys? What did that look like?
Yeah, super basic feed of images. When you click in, there's a recipe there. An explore page with like trending recipes, trending chefs, and upload. And the upload is obviously interesting because it's not just a photo and a caption, it's ingredients and steps and dietary restrictions and difficulty and time to cook. So there's obviously more information around the upload process, your notifications, and then your profile, like super simple, 5 screens. And yeah, I think that's like a general product, like theme MVP, like what is the minimum amount of value that you can provide to someone, and how can you get that out there as fast as possible?
And what was initial, market reaction with friends and family with V1?
I'd say it was positive. It's hard to gauge because when like you tell your family or your dad or your cousin or your friend, like people tend to be like, yeah, this is really cool, but like you don't know if they actually mean it, and like they don't know if I'm actually being serious, right? Because like how many times have your friends or someone said to you like, yo, I have this idea for something, like I'm gonna do it, and then like a week goes by and you never hear about it again. Which I think is fair because it's really, really easy to be excited about a new idea that you have, and it's incredibly difficult to actually follow through with it. So I think like while the reaction was positive, and like food and cooking is one of these industries that like it touches everyone, especially in COVID, like everyone was cooking, they're like, okay, there's something here, like let's see if you guys actually like follow through with it. And I think as Jake and I showed how serious we were about it, having calls and trying to reach out to developers and talking to investors, and Jake and I just are not the type of people that are going to like say that we're going to do something and then not actually do it. Like, we're the type of people that follow through on it. And, as we're having this conversation, February 2024, like that marks almost 4 years since we've, started working on it. And like the high majority, probably 90 something percent of the days since the middle of 2020, like I've done something to push Pepper forward. So I think it's a testament to our like dedication to it.
Now, I've heard you talk about this on other podcasts, but what was that inflection point like for you when you were, getting done with your M&A work, getting back, working on Pepper? At what point were you like, hey, I'm spread too thin. I need to focus on one or the other?
Yeah. So I felt that I wanted to quit at the end of 2020. I went through a really challenging time at work, and I was doing Deloitte CPA studying and trying to get Pepper off the ground, and it was like impossible. And I actually decided to stop doing the CPA. I was halfway through. I had passed two of the exams, and I was miserable. I was waking up every day with no energy, so like genuinely upset about what I was about to do. So I stopped doing the CPA, and then it was Deloitte and Pepper. And I think it's truly a miracle that I made it through 2021 and 2022 and then half of 2023. We ended up launching the product in the fall of 2021. Things went really well. Things were going really well. And then the business just reaches new heights of like, I need user growth to keep accelerating. I need more content creators on the platform. I need the product to be better. And there's just so many things that as you start to grow, that it was like by like spring of 2023, I was like, this is like becoming something that I need to dedicate everything to. And so I was feeling that way in 2023. And then 2023 until I quit in July was just working through those emotions of like, am I actually like ready to do this? Like, what are my days going to look like at Pepper if I do this? Like, is my financial situation okay if I do this? I think even when you have the highest belief in yourself, there's still nerves around leaving your steady corporate job to go out on your own into the unknown.
Now, you're an accounting guy by trade, right? Were you, running the X's and O's to see runway, to see cash burn? Were you guys monetized at the point when you quit? Like, what was going through your head as a person that's trained in finance and accounting as you're thinking about giving up what is considered in really any other part of the world a very, very high paying job?
Yeah, I'm going to disappoint you on this answer, but my decision to go had absolutely nothing to do with any type of cash burn or fundraising. It was a gut feeling. I knew in my heart that this is where I wanted to be spending my energy. This is where my energy was required. And no spreadsheet or a number could have told me otherwise by that point. And I knew in my heart and my body and my soul that I had to go all in on it. It comes back to what I said earlier, right? Like, you could say I'm making this amount of money and have a stable job, and everyone looks at me, oh, he works in M&A at Deloitte. That's great. Like, none of that has made me as satisfied as taking a chance on myself, building a company that I'm passionate about alongside people that I care about. Like, can't put a price on that. And yeah, I just didn't want to have any regret. So it was a gut and a heart feeling for sure. No numbers.
Now, I'd love to hear, the perspectives. You go up to your parents and you tell them that you're quitting your job, and you go up to your manager, career advisor, whomever at Deloitte, and tell them you're, putting your 2 weeks in. Walk me through those two experiences.
So I'll start with my parents because I mean they knew in 2020 that I wanted to quit, and they were very like supportive. I think in 2020 when we hadn't launched the product and we were a couple months into building it, they thought I was crazy. But as we launched and as we got traction and as we got on a Gordon Ramsay TV show and as they saw me put in 2 years of hard work and dedication on this company, I think they warmed up to the idea that by 2023 they were at the point where they were like, Matt, like it's your life. Like we support you. We're not going to support you financially, but we support you emotionally. We support whatever decision you make. So with my parents was like, by the time that I quit, they were understanding of it and supportive. And then at Deloitte, honestly, the same, like, you're at these big companies and like, I'm very grateful for how they treated me when I told them. I think anyone that chases something that they're passionate about should be commended. And I don't think there's I did an amazing 3.5 years there, dating back like 5 or 6 years if you count like my internships and stuff. Met so many great people. I'm very proud of the work that I did there. But I was ready for something else. And who knows, maybe one day I'll be hiring Deloitte for something. And it's just like, I will always throughout my life have so much respect for Deloitte and just great things to say about my time there.
Let's double click on the Gordon Ramsay TV show for a second, because I've seen, bits and pieces of that online. What was that experience like? How'd you guys get in touch in the first place?
Crazy. An Instagram DM that went to Jake's spam on Instagram uh, from a casting director, thought it was a joke, looked up the person on LinkedIn. It said, they were a casting director at some firm. Jake and I tried to imagine that like there was a 0% chance of it happening. And it just kept getting realer and realer. We're like, are we being catfished? Like, is this fake? Fox, producers are getting on calls with Jake and we're like, is this still fake? Like, there's no way this is real. Top doctors, psychologists, therapists, like you name it. Like Jake had to go through all of these different steps. And the craziest part is that Jake was told that he was flying out to LA as a semifinalist. Not guaranteed to be on the show, but they were flying him out. I am in Italy visiting my younger brother who's studying abroad, and Jake is in LA auditioning to be on this show. And he flies out there. He realizes that they invited like 25 people out for 12 spots. And he's like, oh shit, like, this is not a guarantee at all. And he does like the practice rounds. I remember it was super late at night. I'm in Italy. Jake calls me like, Matt, I don't know. It was really crazy. We like built this furniture. Like, I don't know. I'm freaking out. And I'm like, Jake, it's going to be what it's going to be. I know that you did your best. I'm proud of you, whatever happens. And then I remember like the next day, he like got a call saying that he was on the show and that he was going to basically make it. And it's one of those things that, not that I ever like look for validation from anyone else, but like when your company gets chosen to be on a Gordon Ramsay TV show, it's like a holy shit moment of like, wow, like we've really made something that I guess like the world finds interesting in some way. And again, it's never what it's been about for us, but it was a really, really cool moment. And I'll always look back on it as just like how the hell does that even happen? So it's really crazy.
So you have that point of validation. It's a cool story at the very least, even if you didn't need the validation, right? You have that go through. The business is growing. You still wake up assuming on a Monday morning after putting your 2 weeks and you quit your job. You wake up and it's Pepper, full-time job, day one. Was there ever any like, holy cow, what the heck am I doing? Like, what did I just do sort of situation when you were getting started? Or what was that like what was the first kind of like, you go from like one of the most structured environments in the entire, 9 to 5 corporate world to you're on Matt time now. What was that like as you were, really diving into full on entrepreneur mode?
Yeah, I'm a very disciplined person. I go to the gym every morning from like 6 to 8:30, and I kept up that routine. Like I knew that I would need to just fall back on my structure that I had at Deloitte, and that I would find a way to have a version of that in my full time and now in my new full time job. We actually started my first full time day. Jake and I went up to the Berkshires in Massachusetts for just like some strategy and planning sessions, and like even over the last couple weeks of my time at Deloitte, I was mapping out like how was I going to spend my days, like time
Mm.
blocking between creating content and thinking about strategy and reaching out to investors. And so I really am proud of myself for the structure that I've been able to maintain. And I think that led to there was no like, holy shit, like what have I done? Because I just kind of transitioned from Deloitte structure into this new Pepper structure that I was just able to really enjoy and dive deeper into these areas of the business that I didn't really have the time to before. Whether it was things like the analytics on the product front or our social media analytics, really digging into like which types of videos are hitting on TikTok and things like that. And just, I would describe it as I was able to definitely have just like a much deeper understanding of the business, which was obviously important as we entered this next phase.
Now in today's day and age, you guys have around 1 million downloads. It's, taking the immediate cooking world by storm, and it's gone viral in different capacities. What does the product look like today? I'd love for you to explain that to the audience. And then what's VN look like? What's coming down the pike for you guys?
Yeah. So I think right now we're really focused on being a tool for home cooks to improve their experience. That falls into different categories, right? We offer capabilities to create your own digital cookbooks, a place to feel proud of the dishes and recipes that you're making and document them in a place that feels like special and that you can kind of be proud of it. We offer, the ability to browse over 70,000 recipes that have been created by other home cooks, whether it's through our Explore functionality or our search functionality. You have the ability to search by ingredient, dietary restriction, difficulty, time to cook, type a couple of ingredients that you have in your kitchen and be returned a recipe that someone was made by the community. We have a grocery list feature where you can actually take that grocery list and order those ingredients directly through Instacart. I think right now we're really focused on being a tool. And I honestly, the rest of the roadmap is continuing to be a tool. Like we want to, of course, add in more community features, things like group chats and being able to connect with other like-minded home cooks, but without giving away too much of our roadmap. Like we want to be the best tool for home cooks to improve their experience. And that falls into a lot of different categories, kind of both on the side of either sharing and creating recipes or finding recipes and learning about them.
What's your favorite part of the app right now in terms of, you're using it on a day-to-day function? What piece of functionality do you just like absolutely love and you think is, if you are, you're in an elevator with, Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz and you have 15 seconds to show them functionality, what are you going to show them?
I would show them my cookbook. I think that a digital cookbook is so powerful for so many different reasons. Like you can share your recipes on Instagram or TikTok and it looks like shit. To have a place that you are proud of and for it to be organized by your breakfast, lunch, dinner and say, this, Mark, this is what I'm capable of. Check out all these sick dinners I've made. Like, I think that is a crazy moment of like, okay, like these people are giving home cooks that are super passionate about sharing recipes a place to actually be proud and put it in like this cool, unique way to kind of show off. Because at the end of the day, like you want to bring these like family recipes or these recipes that you have in your notes app, you want to bring them to life and you want other people to be able to discover them and, try to cook them and have a conversation about it. So I'm obsessed with our cookbooks feature, which recently came out.
Do you guys have any, and if this is too far down the roadmap, feel free to plead the fifth, but do you guys have any idea or functionality down the road to take that cookbook and actually print out a physical copy? So say like, I have family recipes. Do you guys have anything like that?
You must be spending time in our product meetings. Let's just say a lot sooner than you think. Yeah.
I think that's be wicked, man. I'm excited to see that rolled out. And yeah, I mean, I think there's just so many cool applications, and it's so interesting talking to so many entrepreneurs in your shoes who had ideas that were brewing, and then the pandemic really, there's a ton of obvious tragedy that went on over the time of the pandemic, but so many incredible new ideas and new businesses that came from it. And again, necessity being the mother of invention. This is a perfect example of it. I mean, TikTok blew up how many home cooks and really put so many people on the map. The one that comes to mind is Nick S. I can't remember. I can never pronounce his last name properly, but the guy that blew up on TikTok won Gordon Ramsay's show and is like one of the most popular creators now in the cooking space and just in the influencer or content creation space in general. He's just one example of so many home cooks, so many chefs that have platforms now that just didn't exist even 5 years ago.
Nick Giovanni you're talking about?
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, really amazing. Like I can remember getting onto TikTok like early 2020, right after the pandemic starts. I remember like there was like the 2C slide by Drake. I remember when that like kind of trend took over and it shows you just the power of distribution, which is like another kind of trend that I'm seeing in like a world where like technology isn't necessarily the barrier. It's actually now like a distribution game, no matter whether you're like a CPG product or you're an app. It's like how can you cost effectively get your product or name out there? And there's no better way to do it than TikTok because of the fact that you can have 5 followers and go viral overnight and get 5 million views on a video. It's just a really, really powerful platform. And I think there's so many things to learn from it. And it was like social media before TikTok like wasn't necessarily this like open system that was all about discoverability, that wasn't like creating these like, you know, massive celebrities really overnight. Like, I mean, the
Truly.
D'Amelios and Addison Rae and like these people that just were given a platform and seemingly went from zero to like 100 million followers in what feels like a couple weeks had never happened. Like, even with YouTube, like that's where content creators were like making their content and posting it. But I never felt like people were like being discovered on YouTube. And it's so fascinating just to think about like the evolution of social media. It's like there was YouTube, there was Instagram, there was Twitter, but like why was there no just like I swiped through for like super entertaining videos, and like what was the special sauce about TikTok with the short form combined with the trending sounds combined with the editing features that like combined with maybe COVID that like really made it take off. It's just fascinating to think about the evolution of social media. Yeah.
I mean, we're in a bit of a rabbit hole, but one couldn't agree more. And then I think about what if, Instagram Reels weren't a thing until like 2.5, 3 years ago? I mean, at least for most people
Right.
who would be using them, right? Like, what happens if in the product meeting at Meta at Instagram, they're like, we don't want to compete with TikTok. That's just not our thing. We just want to do, pictures and some videos. Just completely different world now.
Well, and you think back to Vine, right? Like Vine
True.
was TikTok. The Paul brothers were like those original Vine creators, and I believe Twitter bought Vine and shut it down, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken. So
Yep.
it just shows you, and like I think there's this like common, I guess, like conception that like, the people at these massive companies like know everything and like are making the best decisions. But I think that it just shows you that sometimes you can't really explain why things take off at a certain time. It's like this combination of like the product and the timing and maybe just like the randomness of the world of why some products decide to take off. Because like I feel like Vine was like relatively big, so it feels a little odd that it was shut down. And I'm sure the people that shut down Vine were highly paid executives that couldn't see the future in short form media, only to see TikTok come through a couple of years later break through.
Yeah, I think timing is the perfect answer there, right? I mean, right when Vine was getting big is I feel like right when we started seeing the first YouTube influencers or YouTube content creators come in, they're like, oh, the future is long form. We don't need 9-second or 6-second videos, whatever Vine was. But my guess are retroactive,
Well,
Kristen.
right. And you want to talk about timing, TikTok, short form content, the world, shorter attention spans. Like it's like
Spot on.
it's the perfect product for people with shorter
It,
attention spans.
it's spot on. Now, back to Pepper. So we talked about M&A at the start of this with your role at Deloitte. You mentioned, Twitter buying Vine back in the day. What is, the dream goal for you and Pepper and your all's team there? Is it, going and getting scooped up by, the Food Network? Is it you and your buddies ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange going public? Is it, getting bought out by a private equity or, a majority stake sold to a venture capital firm? What is that ideal outcome? And I know a lot of people say, founders shouldn't be thinking about an exit. If they're thinking about an exit, that means they're not really passionate about it. But the reality is, you don't want to be, no one wants to be necessarily working on the same thing for the next 60 years until, retirement or whatever that looks like. There's other things you want to do. If you reallocate your time down the road because of a Pepper exit, what does that ideal outcome look like for you?
I think the ideal outcome is an IPO. So
Yeah.
Jake was a stock trader. So he was an equities, like U.S. equities trader, and his job was more or less to like watch like CNBC with like Jim Cramer and see all of these founders go on CNBC. And like I think similarly to how when I was at Deloitte and I was looking at these companies through a financial lens, and I was always so much more interested in the stories and the products and the strategy. Jake, similarly, he didn't really care about like the trading on it. He was fascinated by these stories of the founders that were on CNBC talking about their companies. And so the way that I view it is I am working on a product that I care about so much that forms community, which is something that's so important to me, and bringing people together alongside people that I care about that are so brilliant. Our team's phenomenal. Jake, our head of growth marketing, Kayla, our engineering team led by Sam. I'm working with people that I care about on a product that I love. I'm forming community. I'm able to touch all these different areas of the company. I'm able to say that what I'm working on is improving the lives of people genuinely. Like, our mission is to improve the cooking experience. And if you learn how to cook, if you feel more confident in the kitchen, like, that to me opens up your life in a lot of ways. I feel like I'm prepared to like spend my life working on this. And obviously I would hope that I'm able to focus on different areas of the business and, continue evolving as a person. But yeah, I would want to IPO the company, and I want to work alongside Jake and our team for, the rest of my life. Like, I don't, that's kind of how I guess I'm feeling at the moment. But yeah.
Let's talk Pepper 2030, and pretty timely with the release of the Apple Pro Vision, last week. I've been seeing some
Yeah.
really cool demos for those listening who aren't familiar. This is, Apple's new augmented or virtual reality tool that you wear over your head. It's goggles you put on, and it's completely hands free as opposed to the Facebook or Meta Oculus platform that the historical versions you had to have controllers in your hands and moving around.
Yeah.
This is all uh, you know this is all controlled through eyes and your vision, and you pinch your fingers to like click on things. It's super cool. You should check it out if you haven't already. But I can see so many cool applications for a business like Pepper and a platform like you all have. In a few years, getting into AR VR world where you can be in the kitchen with. I'm guessing they're gonna V2, 3, 4 of this product are going to be glasses or lenses as opposed to this big
Right.
kind of goofy looking headset. But it's got to be a cool seat for you guys to be sitting in right now, thinking, hey, like what can we do in this world where we might not even need to be having to hold our Pepper app on our phone or on our iPad or whatever. You can just have, a lens on and be able to swipe through cookbooks and what have you.
100%. I think one of the challenges that every company faces is literally just staying up to date with all of the technology that's happening, right? Like, in the last year, we've seen the emergence of AI, and what role does AI play in everyone's business? And I love the idea that like there's no longer going to be like AI businesses. There's just businesses that integrate AI, because everyone's going to have to integrate AI into their business in some form or fashion. And I think the Apple Vision is absolutely fascinating. I think it's a little bit too early for me to have a take on like Pepper's role in all of it, but I can only say that um, enabling people to improve their cooking experience and using new immersive technologies, especially around cooking and food, is something that is really important. Whether you're maybe cooking in a room where your friend is, next to you on the
Oh, yeah,
goggles,
good
but
call.
not actually right next to you. And I think it's one of those interesting things about technology and AI, that you can't really like replace like community and your relationships with people, which is like why social networks are so powerful, right? Because it's just about relationships between people, which is like impossible to replicate. But I think there's going to be so many cool applications, and it's our job to stay up to date with what's going on and figure out how can Pepper play a role in some of these new technologies. And yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, and that's another reason why I can say I'm dedicated to this company for the rest of my life, because it's like now we're a mobile app. In a couple of years we're working on our app for the Vision Pro and thinking about what does that look like, and it's just all of these different advancements. And I think that's one of the exciting things about entrepreneurship and having your own business is you're constantly able to challenge yourself with just pushing yourself to learn about new technologies, new strategies. And I was always so like bummed that I never felt like that I was able to just like push myself as far as I am now, working in consulting, just because it was very like rules based in a box. Like, this is what you do when this happens. So I think it's a lot of
I
fun,
hear
but
you.
I don't think it's for everyone, right? Like, it definitely takes a specific personality to be able to be okay with the uncertainty in this type of environment.
I want to double click on that specific type of personality in a second, but last point here, where my head went in talking through the future with AR, VR is I imagine myself, cooking in my kitchen in a different city as my parents, and you both have your goggles on, and they can be like, no, like, and helping you walk through, the home family recipe. Because I was thinking in my head, I'm like, could I see my mom going in and getting her recipes that I need to, learn and memorize into Pepper? I don't know in the current state. Also knowing my mom, but could I see her teaching it to me and me putting it there, absolutely yes. And I feel like that's gonna be even easier with the role of VR, AR down the road. So that's kind of where my head was going. And then I pair that with the idea of AI and the likeness of different people. I'm sure you've seen the sad news about Bruce Willis and his degenerative disease that he has, and he sold his likeness to one of these big media companies in perpetuity so that they can use his likeness and image to recreate his movies, shows, whatever down the road. So long-winded kind of backstop. I could imagine a world where you have the Pepper VR app on, and I'm in the kitchen, and Anthony Bourdain is in there helping me make my recipe. Or even a chef that's alive. They insert your favorite chef is in the kitchen with you cooking that recipe. So the
Right.
applications are just so cool, and you can spiral in every direction. But it's just I'm excited for you guys. It's a cool time to be in a software business that has so many cool applications because it's not like it's so inherently not software.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's fun, it's exciting, and it's also challenging, right? Because you're like, you're so set on, your current business plan, and then this new immersive technology comes out and you're like, all right, like how are we also focusing on this area while staying true to what we're working on now? So like, yeah, I mean, product roadmap discussions are like probably some of the biggest and most challenging conversations that we have today. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
To your point, I mean that's where it takes a certain personality type to be in shoes like yours. And I'd love to talk about that for a second. So, what has it been like running a company as a 26, 27 year old? What are you, 27, 26?
27. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that been like for you? And then, you mentioned you're living in the city, you're able to keep up with friends, have your exercise routine down, and running this company. How are you able to kind of manage it all? I know it ebbs and flows, but what's that been like for you as a young founder in a busy city that's not cheap by any stretch of the imagination either?
Yeah. Oh my God. So many thoughts come to mind. I think
Fire, go.
it starts with like creating space for like my wellness practice, which like mainly revolves around exercising every morning and doing different forms, whether it's weightlifting or yoga, or I even just started doing a little bit of boxing. I feel like if every day can start with a workout, and I love to go in the steam room, which like I really like kind of just relaxes me to start the day. That's kind of like a huge like momentum start that just kind of like propels me into the day because it's like such a big win to start, which I love. And I think in terms of balancing the ups and downs, it's funny. I was just catching up with a friend last night, and I was like, it's great. Like every day feels like a roller coaster. And it's not just like the day, it's like every like 20 minutes, every 10 minutes is like, I can be so excited about like a new campaign or a new feature that we're working on. And then 15 minutes later, I get some bad news that an investor passed on us. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is the fifth person to pass on us this week. And it's just like this. But I think trying to one realize how lucky I am to be in this position, um, to run my own business at such a young age and be working on something that I'm so passionate about. Like, I know that there's going to be ups and downs, but I just truly am so lucky to even be in this position. Like having that gratitude and perspective on things, I think is super important. Um, and then just like something that Brian Chesky says, that I loved is like, being excited about a beginner's mindset. Like, I don't have all the answers. Like, I didn't work at Facebook for 15 years. Like, I don't have any like tech experience at, NVIDIA or whatever it is. So being excited to learn and dive into something and not like realizing that that is, so, like a detriment, but actually some like being really excited to dive into a new area of the business or diving into a new project. I think that kind of helps with the ups and downs. Like, okay, an investor passed on us. Like, who can I talk to that has raised a lot of money that can help me nail that pitch down, and being excited to learn. So yeah, being grateful, staying grounded, keeping up with my wellness practice every day. Just like being, talking to friends and family about like the ups and downs has been really amazing. And I'm so grateful for the support of my family and friends. And yeah, just knowing that like, my parents support me and they're proud of me. My friends support me and are proud of me. I'm healthy. I am able to live in New York City, as you pointed out. Like, I have so many things that like keep me kind of centered and grounded, that even though there's all of this craziness going on, I just try to enjoy it and like be present and be grateful for the opportunity.
Love the attitude for gratitude and the it's so hard to be present, but even just having a conversation about it right
So
now is
hard. Yeah. Yeah. It's something, yeah. And you can imagine I struggled with it because when I was at Deloitte, like balancing Deloitte and Pepper, your mind's always in two different places at once. So yeah, being really like focused and raising the level of intensity is something that I'm really working on these days.
Let me ask you this as we round out here. So I loved your all's both product release and the feature update videos you posted on Instagram with Pepper, the montage you made. There's a handful of different, cameos and montages that you guys clipped up in that. If you could open up Instagram tomorrow and have a Pepper, promo video with some new partner, who would be an ideal, Pepper face of the franchise, or maybe if there's more than one person, who would you love to just partner with and have, give that stamp of approval for Pepper?
Wow, that's an amazing question. Hmm, I would say someone that I really admire because of like the way that she kind of established herself as such like a strong cooking personality, but was also so authentic in the way that she did it is Rachel Ray. I was actually fortunate enough to host Rachel on my rooftop in New York City for a dinner once. And I feel like her original shows were the epitome of what Pepper represents, which is that cooking is not this perfect, like flashy thing. Like you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna mess something up. It's about having the experience to try to fix a dish. Or being real that I messed it up. Like it sucks. I'm sorry, but like, how can you kind of find a way to improve it or make it taste okay because your guests are coming over in 30 minutes? So I think Rachel Ray giving her stamp of approval would really mean a lot, and just the way that she has been able to continually just have all these different shows and just be really amazing. And then I guess Anthony Bourdain also comes to mind just because of the way that he also had this kind of like laid back and fun attitude about food and cooking and really focusing on food's ability to bring people together, whether it's by traveling and trying different cuisines and just yeah, really showing how special like food is in the world today.
Yeah, man. I feel like every time I turned on Food Network, from like 2000 to 2010 at my parents' house, it was Rachel Ray was on TV constantly. So can imagine how cool it was to host her on your rooftop. And then last question for you here, and then we can call it who, or I guess what, which of the recipes on Pepper right now is your favorite to fire up? Which one maybe is, are you most excited that you haven't done yet? Something that you just keep coming back to, however you want to answer that. But what's a recipe that stands out to you on Pepper right now?
Interesting. I think this. So one of the first content creators that we ever worked with, her name is Brianna Stark. Her social media handle is at Married to Barbecue. She found out about Pepper about a month before we launched through TikTok. Reached out to us, ended up forming like an amazing relationship with her, and she posted an Alabama white sauce, which is like a white barbecue sauce, and I've never made it. I would love to try it. And that was the first 100 liked post on Pepper. We actually sent her a trophy for having the first one. And I feel like that was the first like very popular recipe on Pepper. I need to try to make it sometime. And it was just like one of those like controversial things of like, what is this like white, like, barbecue sauce? Like, what are we even looking at here? It's like hard to comprehend because just like the coloring is so different than what people are used to. So I feel like it's recipes like that that just stand out in my head of like early Pepper, like we're struggling to get 5 recipes uploaded a day. And like Brianna posts this, talks about us on her TikTok, gets a couple thousand downloads, and it was like, whoa, like people really love her, people love content creators, people love this recipe. Like I remember that moment really standing out in that recipe specifically.
Super cool, man. Super cool. Now, as we, finish up here, anything you want to plug, I'll be sure to, put Pepper, the app download handle in the show notes, but anything you'd want to plug to the audience, and then I can let you go.
No, I did enough plugging for a lifetime on this podcast, but I really, really appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun, and I just hope that people see my journey and my lack of previous tech experience and saying if they see that I can do it, like I'm no smarter than anyone else. I've just been really consistent over a long period of time, which is really challenging. But just putting, something Jake and I like to say is just you just put one foot in front of the other, and one day you look up and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So it's been a grind, but it's just the beginning of Pepper, and we're super excited and again grateful to be able to share our story in places like this.